welcome to the third part of our little series here on the Indian Debating League YouTube channel, breaking down all motions from Sofia Worlds 2026. My name is Krishaang, and I'm really happy to see you all back here for this third part. Uh, I do apologize if there is a lack of energy from my side, as I'm not doing particularly well today. Also, it's been really great to see all of you guys liking the previous parts of the series. Some people have been asking for slides to be uploaded. I will do that in the future, but not concurrently with every video, so that you guys do watch the video. Because I don't think that the slides really tell the whole story here. But okay, uh, the motion that we're talking about today has to do with media and journalism, and it reads as follows. So it has an info slide. The info slide says that moralized journalism refers to media outlets taking an explicit moral or values driven approach in their reporting. Such outlets would take a clear and consistent stance on the issues that they cover. This may include coverage that emphasizes moral outrage, the use of emotionally charged language, and links to broader social narratives. With that as the context, the motion reads this House, as the leadership of a major news organization, for example, The Economist, CBS, The Washington Post, would adopt moralized journalism as a stance. So, it is in these types of motion. I mean, obviously, it is in every type of motion that I would emphasize being very, very careful when you're reading the context slide and the motion wording, because there are a couple important things here. But this is the type of motion where I think this can make or break your case, because there's two very important things that you need to identify here. First is obviously the leadership. There's written in big, big letters, and I'm sure you've seen this. And the second is a clear and consistent stance. And why this is important, why this is relevant, we'll come to in just a bit. Okay. So there are two primary burdens in this motion. The first is that this is an actor's motion. What that means and implies is that the people that are going to be taking this decision, or are going to be going through with proposition or not, are is specifically these people specifically belong to the leadership of a major news organization. What does that mean? What does that entail? That probably means that this person could be like an editor in chief, or it could be a bunch of the top executives at the highest position. And this is not even an or, actually. It's quite likely that both these actors are involved in the collective actor that we're talking about in this motion. Which means that it is probably not likely to be one individual person. Um, this is kind of important because in these types of actors motions, where you have someone who's a part of a company and and whether they're doing something, like they're going to be doing something on behalf of the company, or going to be deciding something for the company, and then you have to figure out whether that's good or bad. Often teams do tend to run, and I think it's quite a good idea, actually. Uh, Teams do tend to run arguments relating to things like personal satisfaction, things like the amount of money you can make individually, the kind of house that you can have, the kind of places that you can live. Um, some of these may be generalizable to multiple people, but some of these are not. And this is why it becomes important to note here that we're talking about a group of people being the actor and not necessarily an individual person. The second burden is that this is a policy motion. So, of course, you could theoretically proceed at your own risk, of course, without providing a model. I do not think that would be a very strategic way to go about this debate. I think it would be more strategic for Gov to explain how would you adopt moralized journalism. What is that going to look like in practice in terms of the type of content that you're putting out, and how you are presenting that content, and what trade-off you're taking. Even for op, it would be useful to explain what you're going to be doing instead. And, like, of course, you're going to be talking about why it's bad to do moralized journalism, or unstrategic to engage in moralized journalism. But if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing instead? If you do explain this, it becomes harder for the other team to strawman you. I also think that in this type of motion, modeling is quite useful, as we've talked about in previous sessions. Why? Because it allows you to preemptively mitigate some of the benefits that you know the other team is going to be striving for. So when you know that the other team wants to achieve certain types of benefits and you can anticipate that they're going to be doing this in certain types of ways, uh, when you model, you're able to somewhat prepare yourself for that. How? I'll come to that. Okay, let's come to the trade-off. Trade-off. Let's come to the trade-off. Uh, for Gov, there is a trade-off that Gov needs to accept, which is that there is likely to be at least some loss of objectivity and facts when you adopt this kind of moralized journalism. And here is where that modeling that I was talking about can be a little useful. So you can kind of mitigate this by modeling and explaining how you can still maintain certain levels of journalistic standards and still present, you know, facts and logic or whatever, while being very emotionally centric. Uh, this will not really be able to get you any benefits of being factual, but at least it will be able to mitigate the exclusivity or like the margin that op is trying to uh, derive in this debate by virtue of their factuality and their objectivity and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you will get benefits, but maybe a better way to say what I was trying to say is that it won't let you get an edge over op, but it will help you blunt opposition's positive impacts, their benefits here. If you actually accept this trade off, but still try to mitigate it by modeling out how you can go ahead and still maintain some standards. Uh, for opposition, the trade off that you probably need to take in this round is that there is likely to be at least some loss of sensationalism, that is being able to dress issues up and pander to the public by being very, very outrageous and stuff. So, of course, it is up to debate whether this is an actually good strategy or not. But one obvious way that you are able to get the public to pay attention to you, which is being hyper emotional and stuff, this is something that you will probably have to lose out on. But even on opposition, though, I think that there is a decent scope for modeling based mitigation. Uh, what you can do is you can explain that, look, on our side, we're still going to be at least somewhat emotional, if not moralistic. We're still going to tell people why you should care about the news we're giving to you. Like if we are providing news about how, I don't know, the roads on the roads have too many potholes and are in bad conditions in your city. If we're talking about this, we're probably going to tell the people that you should care about this because you don't want to get into an accident. But we will also add to this by saying that the chances of accidents are XYZ percentage higher when you have these potholes, whatever. So opposition can explain why they're able to retain some types of, or at least the bare minimum emotional appeal that's necessary. Again, this will not help you get an edge over government, but I think that this is useful so that government cannot completely strawman you and say that, look, on their side, there's not going to be any kind of emotional appeal. Opposition is defending a world with really, really boring and dry news where it's just a bunch of like numbers and percentages and no interpretation and stuff. Yeah, to avoid being treated in such an uncharitable way, I would say you can do some good modeling. There's one more binary here, which is important from the motion, where okay, here we are. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Uh, because I said that such outlets, I didn't say that, the world CAs did, but such outlets would take a clear and consistent stance on the issues that they cover. They're setting this up to be the binary. Um, this implies that there is one more difference in both sides, and it is up to you guys to figure out what's good and what's bad. So Gov will have, or most likely at least, have a clear and consistent stance on the issues that they are going to be covering. What this stance is in terms of if, for example, the media houses say pro-environment, then they will continue to be pro-environment and have that tone to a lot of their news. If they are anti-immigration, then they will have that tone affect a lot of their news. So the ability for government to be able to switch is very low between different stances. And the fact is that you will have to at least probably pick a stance, because that stance is going to be the basis of your moralization. On opposition, you have a fluid stance. And the advantage is that this stance can adapt on the basis of circumstances, it can adapt on the basis of new information, and most importantly, it can adapt on the basis of convenience. And here, since we're talking about the leadership of the news organization, this is quite important, because whenever you get into, like, I don't know, hot water with the state or whatever, or with some big business who's getting mad at you, it's at least a little easier to be able to shift your stance and cover your ass, basically. So Gov is burdened with having a clear and consistent stance. Op, unfortunately, has a fluid stance, but it's not a burden and it's not unfortunate if you know how to use this well, and if you know how to explain why the type of stance that you have um, is quite strategic. All right, so let's talk about the actor incentives here. What links you will need to make and some ideas. So there are two basic, very, very broad incentives that I could think of that this actor would want, the leadership of the news organization would want. Um, the first is that you want your news organization to do well, and you want it to be a successful and competitive organization. I do think that, even with this incentive, there is a certain amount of wiggle room. You could also explain on one of the sides that the leadership does not want the organization to do very, very well, because that attracts too many eyeballs and Johnny Law. And what you want is your organization to be small and sustainable, so it's giving you money, something like that. But the most general way in which, in most rooms, this debate is going to be run is that the leadership actually wants this organization to do well. Uh, it is not sufficient to stop here. I would say that when you come up with this active incentive, you should break it down into what are different ways in which an organization can do well. And similar to our previous sessions, these kind of become metrics that you can win on within the debate. So the first is that you would want more readership, or you would want more viewership. Here, I think it would be quite useful to also think about who your types of viewers are going to be, who your types of readers are going to be, in terms of, do you want people to to read this news and like action it into their everyday lives? Do you want people to just make watching this news become some kind of part of their routine, and maybe even an entertaining part of their routine, and they don't action it into their everyday lives? Do you want to achieve both? Do you want people to quote you, and do you want people to cite you, and do you want to be considered an important and credible organization, or do you not? And this comes to the second type of benefit that could be a way in which a news organization is successful, is when you have a higher amount of credibility, when you're taken more seriously by a higher number of people. Um, this becomes useful because this allows for you to access a lot of doors that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. It allows you to do expansion into different countries and so on and so forth. The third is that a news organization would want to identify scoops faster and be able to cover them faster as compared to other news organizations, because like that's what the new is, right? In news, it has to be new, it has to be fresh, and a large basis of the competition amongst news organizations is about who is able to get there the fastest. So for this type of benefit, this kind of has a couple of kind additional burdens, I guess you could call them. The first is that you would want your news organization to have a high number of sources. So you would want that there are a significant number of actors out there who are in all parts of the economy, people who work in all types of sectors, all types of industries, um, people who are rich, people who are poor, whatever, to be willing to talk to your news organization. They should find it to be a beneficial thing to do. So you should have a high number of sources accessible. You need to be able to provide positive incentives to your sources, but also you need to prevent there from being negative sources, such as like when I say sources, I mean you need to prevent there from being negative things. A better word is you need to prevent people from being deterred from being your sources. So you need to be able to protect them from state backlash and all of that kind of stuff. So you can definitely link this to the type of coverage that you have and what kind of confidence it instills, not just in your audience, but also in your sources. Second is spread. How well spread is your news organization? Do you have reporters in every city? Can you get to all of these places fast? Can you get boots on the ground quick enough? And or if you can't, then are you able to obtain local allies and smaller news organizations that are willing to be your proxies in whenever a piece of news comes up in their area? So I think this is an important metric on the basis of which news organizations compete, which is you want to get to places fast and cover news quick and cover it well. Even if you don't cover it so well, often the speed can make up for the actual quality of your coverage. Um, the fourth is less state crackdown. A news organization is successful when the state isn't running after it with a stick. You should be able to prove why, on either side, why your specific type of news coverage is not going to lead to the state getting mad. For example, if I were in government, I mean, and if, say, I were trading off credibility, and I was saying that, look, I want to just be perceived as an edutainment or an entertainment kind of outlet. I want to be like most Indian quote unquote news channels on TV, where people yell at each other in TV quote unquote debates, and no one really takes this seriously, but people keep watching and we sell ad revenue. If this is my goal and I'm on government, then I would need to explain then, and if I've already traded off credibility, then I could use that to explain that the state is also not going to take me to be a serious threat, even if I'm saying anti-state stuff, and they won't have a high incentive to crack down. And I will be able to appease to them in, I don't know, different ways. Op could say that you don't have consistency. Sorry, you have too much consistency to be able to flip. If I were an op and I wanted less state crackdown, then I could use something quite similar, which is to say that um, if we are not if we don't have enough moralization to directly attack the state, or at least make, like, you could keep attacking the state on the basis of the functioning of the state, but on opposition, our news organization would probably never make personal attacks against members of the state and not cover things like, I don't know, them having expensive dinners while their constituency members are starving and stuff. So the lack of things like the lack of frequency of things like personal attacks on our side and moral judgments of individual uh, agents of the state on our side is probably going to lead to reduced crackdown. This is important. This is something that a news organization definitely wants. Uh, I mean, unless you are able to prove that we want to be like a maverick kind of news organization, and we want to be considered to be super, super credible or something like that. Even there, you could potentially prove that your news is so credible that the chance of state crackdown is really low, or you're perceived as so credible that the chance of state crackdown is low. Like, yeah, when you have organizations like the Associated Press in the US, for example, Reuters around the world, um, their news is considered to be so goddamn credible that it does not lead to a state backlash in most cases, from most states, actually. And the last is, and of course, this is the last that I have for you guys. I'm sure you will be able to come up with a bunch more ways in which a news organization can be considered successful. Is you want to be relevant, you want to be in the discourse, you maybe want people to keep talking about you. You want people, even if they're not active readers, to know who you are, even if they're not active watchers, to know what channel number your channel is on and stuff. You want to be on the front page of YouTube with your live streaming from your news channel and blah, 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 blah. You want to be memed by other people because this is going to lead to you being relevant enough to get more like a more expensive ad time that you can give to other people and sell to other people. You can get a higher number of sponsors competing to want to be covered by your news organization and stuff. The second, and maybe slightly more nuanced incentive that is of the leadership is to stay in the leadership, because a lot of the power and a lot of the resources and the access to resources and access to power that the leadership of this organization has is by being in that position where they are the leadership of that organization. So they would probably want to remain in this leadership for the foreseeable future. How are they going to achieve this? The first mechanism to achieve this is the first incentive. So fulfillment of stuff in the first incentive can be tied into this incentive and how it fulfills this incentive. So what you can do is you can use kind of the same material to win you on two different metrics, which I personally find to be quite useful in debating. The second is dependence. If you are able to prove, and again, this is more extension idea, if you are able to prove that when you imbibe, and you do this in your model, when you imbibe a certain kind of journalism in your organization, what that leads to is the news organization being dependent on you, maybe your face, or maybe your connections, or I don't know, something, um, to be able to continue to be on that path. I think this is more of a gov argument than an op argument, because the importance of faces and the premium that is attached to the leadership of the news organization becoming actual visible public figures is much higher in sensationalist news organizations than non-sensationalist news organizations, or more in much higher in moralizing news organizations than non-moralizing news organizations. So this is the idea on the basis of which you can kind of explain how personal, less altruistic. I mean, wanting your company to do well is not altruistic, but at least it's not super selfish. Incentives can also be achieved. And that's going to be it for today's video. This is shorter than usual, A, because I'm sick, but also B, because I wanted to see how people react to these shorter, still deep, hopefully, dives, and whether you like this more than the longer sorts of versions. So thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.